Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this new Titus Andronicus album, The Obelisk. Titus Andronicus are a New Jersey-based punk band that in the late 2000s really caught my ear and were, for a while, actually one of my favorite acts in punk. 2008's The Airing of Grievances was a rowdy, raucous punk album that was also super gritty and super catchy. And as far as song structures go, Titus Andronicus seemed to be so far beyond everyone else in punk right at that moment. Hell, I would even go as far as to say that there was almost like a progressive feel to all of this. And 2010's follow-up, The Monitor, a sort of concept album about the Civil War, was even better. It's even more triumphant and epic, and it brought in new elements like some weird Heartland rock. But ever since, my relationship with Titus Andronicus has been really all over the place. There was the Local Business album that just was so much filler and just really didn't hit with me at all. Then there was The Most Lamentable Tragedy a few years ago, which at the time I was super into, but over the last few years has become a little bit more bloated to me, even though there are some really great tracks on there. And then we have last year's A Productive Cough, which I was actually super amped to listen to, but ended up being this weird bar band experiment that just seemed like so much of a waste of time and effort, especially on my part. Like, I was so confused on where the band was going. Now, some of the singles going into this album weren't actually that bad, and it's only been about a year, not even practically, since we've heard from Titus Andronicus, so let's chat about this thing. To be honest, for the most part, the start of this album is pretty good. This album starts off with Just Like Ringing a Bell. And after their mighty toned-down embarrassment of a last album, this is actually pretty exciting. It's upbeat, it's chaotic, and frontman Patrick Stickles on vocals really just sounds like he's on his A-game here. Overall, there just seems to be this triumphant wake-up call of a vibe here that I can't help but get behind. Breakneck pace is awesome, and the guitar solo here actually is like incredibly emotional and works its way right into my heart, giving me all sorts of feels. This is a great intro. And Troubleman Unlimited is a much grittier and almost bluesy sort of track from Titus Andronicus. Honestly, once again, doesn't come off too bad at all, and Patrick Stickles on vocals here just comes off charismatic as hell. It leads to some of the most interesting vocal and lyrical moments of the entire album, and I love just how explosive this track can get at times. Like, this may not be the wake-up call as the introduction to this album was, but this is the sort of leap and risk that they should be taking, and I really like this tune. We also see that sort of return of Americana and Heartland rock return here, and it's only amplified when they bring in the backing vocals here. This is a decent track. Beneath the Boot later on may not be as progressive as some of their early tracks, but as far as a straightforward punk tune goes, I can get behind this. For a great change of pace, everything here just sounds so focused. Patrick Stickles here once again comes off so manic, like he is absolutely out of control on this track, and I love that. Like I said, this may not be genre pushing, but as far as a straightforward track goes from Titus Andronicus, this is great. And I continue to really like the very grungy and bulkier feel of tracks like Within the Gravitron. Like, I don't want to give this track too much credit, but I honestly feel like this is some of Pat's best songwriting in years on this track. It's both snappy and heartfelt, and here this whole bar band aspect that they keep clinging to with every ounce of energy that they have actually comes off great because hell yes do I want to sing along to every moment of this track. Instrumentally, some of the more stripped down moments in the second half go way too long, but overall I don't mind this one bit. Now, like I said earlier, this may not be the most adventurous album from Titus Andronicus, but with tracks like this so far, and looking at their track record over the last few years, this is actually pretty solid stuff. Almost to the point where I'm sitting here thinking, where's the filler? Don't worry, there's plenty of that, sadly. We get tracks like I Blame Society, and instantly, here's the filler. You see, in moments like this, I can't help but just get a little upset. Like, this is a riled up punk tune, more so than half of the things that Titus Andronicus have been putting out in years, that's for sure. But anyone could have wrote this. This is so faceless. And it goes nowhere and has no purpose whatsoever. Which, if you told me in, like, the days of The Monitor would happen to Titus Andronicus, I would have cried. And it's a shame because some of the harmonies here are actually gold, but the rest of this track is completely directionless. And while earlier we saw Titus Andronicus try out a more bluesy sound, we get tracks like My Body and Me that don't nearly come off as interesting with that sound. No, this is like the dark side of that sound. This is way too gimmicky. It's way too much of a stretch for my liking, not to mention incredibly cheesy. Lyrically, sadly, I'm missing something in a big way. And some of Patrick's singing here, like, I'm not feeling this at all. How is this even the same freaking band anymore? I want to know. Now, on the last Titus Andronicus album, we did have a lot of filler, a lot of garbage, but we also had Above the Bodega, that track, which was pretty awesome. And in moments like that, their bar band aspect came off pretty good. Then we get tracks here like Hey Ma, and it's not that. There are moments here that sort of come off exciting and in the moment, that's for sure. But the majority of this track is emotionless and, most importantly, completely lost. While this album isn't nearly as bad as A Productive Cough, I have to say that a lot of the same problems they were facing on that album are back for round 2 here. Like, honestly, listening to these verses here, it's like pulling teeth. And it's a shame because some of the instrumentals towards the end of the track, like the synths and the bagpipes that come in, actually are really great, but everything else about this track just falls apart. And tracks like On the Street, like, it's really sad because this has all the bite in the world. But once again, this lacks serious purpose. How is it possible that this track is a minute long, but it ends up feeling like 3 times as that? And as this album goes on and on and on, I would swear that Titus Andronicus have chained themselves to this idea of becoming this epic bar band. Don't know why. And the end of this album is just a serious toss-up. We get the lion inside next. And in moments like this, I would swear that Titus Andronicus, right in front of us, are having this epic battle with their own sound. Like, this one has this sort of Heartland rock feel once again. It's a little upbeat, a little punky, a little attitude thrown in. And it's a sound that I feel like they should hit the nail on the head with. And some of the backing vocals, as cheesy as they are, add quite a bit to this track. But lyrically, this is a massive low point for the album. And then we have Tumult Around the World as a finale. And honestly, I still don't mind this track at all. I actually think it's pretty good. It's anthemic and very crunchy, and yes, quite possibly a little one-dimensional. But in this case here, it comes off more like this obsessive mantra than anything. Hell, it makes me want to just join in and freak out alongside Titus Andronicus as they do here. Like, I actually wish that this track was earlier in the album because this one amps me up. So, like a lot of their recent material, this is a very divisive album. Like, I feel like in a weird way, they solved almost every problem that they had on A Productive Cough, but then in its place, they've made like 3 new ones. Obviously, the heavier and punkier approach to this album is well welcomed and very exciting to hear. Not to mention, as far as the bar band aspect that Titus Andronicus have taken over in the last few years, actually comes off really a lot better here when it comes off at all. But in its place, some of these bluesy tracks here are a joke, and Patrick Stickles' songwriting goes back and forth between actually really refreshing and some of his best work in years and completely directionless and really depressing, and I just miss the old days of this damn band, let's be honest. I'm feeling like a strong 6 on this album, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.